After making all the setup changes to your G4, such as station ID, date and time, communications, where you turn on Modbus or maybe set up a radio, and including your flow measurement tube, turning on applications, telling it what your contract hour and contract base pressures and so forth. After you've set all that up and made all your changes, you're ready to do a save configuration file. So we have a save and restore button. And just to mention all of the changes that you've made in the tree view over here on the left, this is your TF data directory. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this manila folder with the blue arrows. This is your save and restore utility. Okay, now that we're inside our save and restore utility, notice we have a TF cold up top and we have a TF data below. TF data is once again the directory that I've modified. It's my tree view. TF cold up here at the top is my permanent memory that's inside the G4. And so what we're going to do at this point is do a save station file, and we're going to take everything in the TF data directory and we're going to save it off to our PC hard drive. From there we have a backup. So if this G4 were to crash and I had to put a new board out there, I could take everything from my TF data off of my hard drive on my PC, and I could do a restore and push it back out to my G4 and then cold boot the unit and be back up and running. And so what that means is if you've turned on certain applications or you've set up remote communications a certain way, when you restore your station file and then do a cold boot, you'll be right back to the way you were set up the day you saved it. So the first thing we want to do is jump down here to the bottom and do a save station file. And then notice it's going to save to c:\PCCU7 /station files /totalflow.xfc. And so what that tells me is my station ID for this G4 is Totalflow, and I'm also talking to an XFC, X series flow computer, not an XRC or an NGC and so forth. So it's going to save it as a .xfc file, and it's going to save the files from TF data. So that's the ones that we modified down here at the bottom. Also, I can select all setup or configuration files. If I uncheck this, then I would be able to go in here and make changes. So at this point I'm going to go ahead and tell it to select all of the configuration files. In the future, if you are going to save the station files out of one G4 and you're going to move them to another G4 and you've already done a field calibration on that G4, you could take the CAL files out, and then when you load them into your new G4, it wouldn't have the calibration from the G4 that you saved it from. So that might be beneficial. So I'm going to go ahead and say all set up on that and go ahead and say OK. And this is telling me that right now totalflow.exe station file is found. What would you like to do? Delete the existing file and save a new one, back up Totalflow XFC to Totalflow back one and then create a new one, or do you want to overwrite and merge them? So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and back up Totalflow and then keep the one I have, create a new one. Okay, it says the upload is complete. You should copy the files to TF cold. Would you like to restore station files? And so what that's telling me is if I say yes here, it's going to be the same as if I said no and came down and did a restore station file. But it's going to take all of the changes that we have here in TF data. It's going to move them right up here to TF cold into our permanent memory and override our permanent memory. So in that case, if I go ahead and restore, that's great, because if the unit were to lose the lithium battery and lose power, that would be a cold boot. That's a physical cold boot. And when a cold boot happens, it's going to take everything in the TF cold directory and move it right over the TF data directory. So essentially the lithium battery is keeping the TF data backed up. So when we lose that and we lose the TF data, the TF cold just writes back into that slot so that you can run your G4. And so if we don't restore, we're going to have the default settings in TF cold, and if a cold boot ever happens, and then this G4 would go right back to default settings from the factory. So it is a good thing to go ahead and restore your station files up to TF cold That way, if and when a cold boot happens, you'll be back set up the way you wanted it set up. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say no to this just to show you the extended version. If you get to this point in the field, you can go ahead and say yes and just do a restore station file. So if I hit no there, I'm going to drop down to restore station files. And here it says it's taken the files from /pccu7 /station files /totalflow.e xfc. Now this is the file that we just created, and so it's going to go out and reference that file that we just created. It's going to download it to tfcold, and I'm going to tell it to go ahead and grab all the files and then empty tfcold before restoring. So it's going to go out and blow away everything that's in the tfcold and write this fresh new data out to it. So I'm going to go ahead and click OK on that. Okay, it says download complete, and it gives me a start time and an end time. So I'm going to go ahead and say OK. Okay, so at this point, my PC, my G4 is programmed, and so my G4 is programmed, and I've saved a copy off to my hard drive. I've also written it out to the permanent memory on the G4. At this point, tfcold and tfdata should match, and we could leave it this way. So let me jump out here to Explorer and show you where it saved it to. So if I go out to Windows Explorer and I go to my hard drive, so here is C, PCCU7, and then I'm going to jump down to station files, and then I'm going to go ahead and make this detailed. And we have Totalflow BAK1. Here's a Totalflow XFC from today. Okay, so I could go ahead and highlight this one, attach it to an email or something if I wanted to send it to another colleague, and they could use it to download to a G4 or however. Okay, so now that we've made those changes, like I said, tfcold and tfdata are exactly the same. We could stop here. Now, if I took this station file and I wanted to put it into a brand new G4 and I didn't want to have to set it up, I already had one that was set up like mine, then I could go ahead and save it off just like we did. I could take that file that I just showed you and I could push it directly from my PC to tfcold, and then the question is, how do you get it from tfcold down to tfdata? So like I said, I'd go out and I would grab that file, I would just do a restore, I would push it out there to tfcold. Then to go from tfcold down to tfdata, we need to go to terminal mode. So there's a button up here at the top called terminal. If you go ahead and click on that, you should get an arrow, and then next to your arrow we're going to type in boot equals, and then the trick here is COLD, boot equals cold, and cold has to be capitalized. You can capitalize boot also, so you could have boot equals cold all capitalized, but the key is cold has to be capitalized. And the trick is when you hit enter here, take a look at your display when you do it, and just make sure that it goes into the bootloader and refreshes. So I'm going to go ahead and hit enter. Okay, after we've done that, you can go ahead and close out of this page. And my system is back up and running, but at this point, this page here would be not connected. So I'm going to go ahead and back out to the splash screen and let it refresh, and then try to connect again. Okay, now after we've reconnected and we've done a cold boot, so now my TF data and TF cold are exactly the same. I went ahead and did a cold boot and moved TF data, the TF cold down over the TF data drive, and so now my system is backed up and I have a copy on my hard drive. And I want to show you one more thing here. If you go back up to your device ID and under Station Setup tab, if we go ahead and scroll down here to the bottom, there is a update cold start configuration. And so right now it says no operation, or I could do a merge with existing TF cold. I could do delete and recreate TF cold, or update in progress. So depending on the choice that I make here, I could essentially take my TF data that I've changed and actually update or overwrite the TF cold go in this direction. So if you save a copy off to your hard drive, go ahead and do a restore. It's one way to do it. Or make all the changes in TF cold, save a copy off through save and restore to your hard drive so you'll have it, and then you can come in here and merge with or delete and recreate TF cold. So if I do that, it takes the TF data and just pushes it up to the TF cold, so it'll be the same as doing a restore station file. And I guess really the only advantage going this way over the other would be this is directly from one chip to the next, where the way we just did it is going from your PC across a USB cable to the G4. So it's a little quicker this way, your choice. So that is save and restore, how to do a cold boot using the terminal mode, and how to do an update cold start configuration. So this concludes save and restore.